The right story is critical for the success of any brand. People are ultimately emotional decision makers. When we encounter a product or a service that we're considering buying, the first thing we do is see how it feels. Do we connect with the brand? Do we feel good about its values? Story is the framework that guides that emotional connection between you and your customers. Without it, you can't build the type of connection that secures business and encourages people to talk about your brand far and wide. Having the right story in place for a brand is absolutely critical. We often think that our customers are rational buyers. They buy things because the price makes sense or the features and benefits meet the need that they have. The fact is, people make decisions emotionally. Story communicates that emotion, that feeling behind your brand more effectively than anything else. For as long as people have been on this planet, we've used stories to communicate critical information about our communities, about our values, and about how we live and work together as people. A brand story works the same way. It's a simple, elegant structure that allows you to communicate why your brand matters, why people ought to care about that, and the values that you espouse so they can determine whether it's they who want to do business with you. Storytelling in the digital era is so critical because your brand simply can't buy access to its audience the way it might have in an earlier time. Social media, email, the internet, these technologies have fractured your audience in innumerable ways. Buying ads, trying to push your message out in a one-sided broadcast way simply won't reach people the way it might have even just a decade or so ago. Stories are critical in the digital era because the behaviors that people use today to share information mirror the exact same way that people shared information millennia ago in the time of the oral tradition. The way that people communicate in the digital era looks just like the way that people communicated during the days of the oral tradition millennia ago. People see a piece of information that they think is interesting. If they feel it's worth sharing, they broadcast it across their network. They might forward an email, they might share it on social media. If they think the message is not interesting or valuable to them, they hide it, they minimize it, or maybe they add something to it before they share it with people in the form of a comment or some other piece of context. These behaviors are the same behaviors that people have used to spread information since the earliest days of society. Stories are critical for businesses to communicate with their audience because people's brains are hardwired to take and receive information that way. Stories are the way that we pass information on through generations. They're the way that we learn about each other and learn about communities. When you put your brand's message in the format of a story, you're structuring it in a way that your audience wants to receive it and a way that they're inclined to spread it. Brands should structure their message in the form of a story because when you put your customer at the center of your story, the story becomes not about you, but about them. That level of empowerment and ownership by your customer is what gives them agency in your brand story and encourages them to share it with the people in their network, become attached and loyal to your brand, and inspired to share that message far and wide. Most brands struggle with communicating in the digital era because philosophically they're still rooted in the way the world communicated even just a couple decades ago, the broadcast era. For most of the 20th century, all communication from brands to their audiences was one-sided. A brand would buy an ad in a newspaper, they might buy an advertisement on the radio, maybe send a mailer out to their customers. This trained brands to believe that access to capital and one-sided communication was enough to get their customers to engage with their brand and to buy. In the digital era, there are simply too many communication channels for a brand to buy dominance and adoption, no matter how big they are. For brands to be successful in the digital era, they must convince and persuade customers that they want to share that message on their behalf. This is a complete change in how businesses build relationships and communicate with their customers, and is the exact type of connection and engagement that storytelling has always fostered among people. Businesses struggle to connect with fractured audiences in the digital era because the exact way that that relationship must be built is counterintuitive. Most brands are used to the idea of developing their product and service and blasting it out to a group of customers who will respond to that message and become clients. In the digital era, the relationship that exists between the customer and the brand is completely and totally different. It's harder. It must be more authentic. It must be more emotional. Storytelling provides that framework for a brand to communicate its values, communicate its purpose, and do that in a way that cuts across communication channels and inspires customers to become evangelists on behalf of the brand, no matter where that message is being shared. One of my favorite legacy brands who's used story to reinvent the way they connect with their customers is Bush Hog. Bush Hog invented the large rotary mower, the type of things that you would see cutting fields or on the side of a highway. Their brand was so successful that Bush Hog became a term for the entire category. Anytime you would see a mower pulled behind a tractor, that was a Bush Hog. The problem, of course, is that over the years, plenty of other competitors had started making Bush Hogs themselves, although they, of course, were anything but. Bush Hog had started to become so successful, it suffered from what I would call genericide. Bush Hog recognized that to differentiate itself, it couldn't lean into the features of its product. Its competitors were selling what was fundamentally positioned in the exact same way. In order to reconnect with its audience, in order to inspire the people that were most passionate about the brand, Bush Hog had to give its customers and its distributors a story that put them at the center. A story that leaned into the unique features of the Bush Hog, that differentiated it from competitors, and most critically made it clear to people why the premium and loyalty to a brand like Bush Hog was so critical over the imitators that were coming after it. As the inventor of the category, it's only Bush Hog that has the credibility to build a brand and a product that can endure and that can tackle those types of difficult challenges. In Bush Hog's case, the story came down to a very simple position, a very simple tagline. If it doesn't say Bush Hog, it just won't cut it. When a brand purely leans into its product features and benefits, it does itself a disservice in a number of different ways. Perhaps the first and most critical element is it invites comparison shopping. If your product is no more than just a list of technical specifications, then why would your customers not just go out and find a product that meets the exact same specifications at a lower price? For most people, the technical features and benefits of a product simply aren't very memorable. When a person sees a list of features and benefits, it does a couple things for them. The first, of course, is it's incredibly difficult to remember. As they go through a complex buying process, later down the line, they may not remember those details that were presented to them early on. Secondly, it invites comparison with competitors. If a product is nothing more than the features and benefits or the specifications that comprise it, then why would a customer not go out and look for a product that is equivalent but cheaper? Brands that use story know that the details of their product are not what builds connection with their customers. It's the way that the product is wielded by the customer under the guidance of the brand that unleashes its potential and its power. Stories are effective when it comes to communicating how a product works, precisely because they're not the features and benefits of what the product is. It's a narrative about how the product can transform the customer under the guidance of your brand.